officially resumed. We are still in the same council meeting, so the prayer and acknowledgements still are consistent and relevant, as well as the apology from Councillor Ristevski, and also the provisions of the Code of Meeting Practice regards to live streaming still apply. So, Council, what I believe we should be doing is just continuing with the agenda, in that we will, item CO05, of which we were in confidential, but then we got out of confidential, just leave that till the end, and which will then leave us just with the mayoral minutes, the committees, the noms, and then we will jump into CO05 at the end. That being said, I'd like to officially move that we deal with the meeting in that fashion. Seconded, Councillor McNaught. Any discussion? All those in favour? Against? I declare it carried. So, the first mayoral minute is a condolence motion, as well as the second one. If we can just have it brought up on the screen, please. And can I ask that we make the font bigger, please? Thank you. It's with great sadness that I learned of the recent passing, just 32 years old of age, Dr. Nikhil Autar, who was a proud resident of Voyager Point, an extraordinary young Australian who showed remarkable compassion, resilience, and determination to effect lasting impact on so many lives. Despite having been diagnosed with leukemia during his HSC year, he was determined to turn his personal challenges into a lifelong mission to improve the lives of others by completing a medical degree at Western Sydney University. Through his work as a doctor, innovator, and advocate, he became a nationally recognized leader in healthcare accessibility and social impact. Importantly, many of Dr. Autar's contributions directly benefit the communities of Liverpool and across southwest Sydney. Through KNIA Maps, he supported people with disability and chronic illness by improving accessibility to hospitals, community infrastructure, public spaces, and transport with greater confidence and dignity. His passion for equitable healthcare, affordable medical technology, and improved support for vulnerable people reflected the values of care and inclusion that are critical to our diverse Liverpool community. At only 32 years of age, his achievements were extraordinary. His legacy will continue to the lives that he helped, the systems he improved, and the people he inspired. Dr. Autar represented the greatest strengths of our region: intelligence, compassion, humility, and a community-minded approach to his work. On behalf of the people of Liverpool, I extend our deepest condolences to his family, friends, and loved ones. May he rest in eternal peace. And I would like to move that Council notes with deep sadness the passing of Dr. Nikhil Autar, former New South Wales Young Australian of the Year. To recognise Dr. Autar's outstanding contribution to healthcare, accessibility, and community advocacy through his initiatives, including KNI Maps, Beam Health, and Doctors Against Violence Towards Women. 3, extend our sincere condolences to his family, friends, and all those impacted by his passing. Is there any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. I declare it unanimous. The next mayoral minute it is with great sadness that I acknowledge the passing of Emeritus Professor Kenneth Richard McKinnon AO, one of Australia's most respected educational leaders and a man whose legacy continues to shape institutions, communities, and lives across our nation. As Vice-Chancellor of the University of Wollongong from 1981 to 1994, Professor McKinnon was a visionary who transformed a young regional university into a globally recognized institution. Through strategic foresight, determination, and a deep belief in people, he built not only a university, but a culture grounded in innovation, inclusivity, and real-world impact. His leadership saw the expansion of academic disciplines, the development of the university's iconic campus, and the establishment of its first international presence. More importantly, he championed the idea that education must serve society by opening doors of opportunity and ensuring that knowledge translated into tangible benefits for communities. Beyond his formal career, Professor McKinnon remained deeply committed to education and research, contributing generously through philanthropy to support future generations of scholars and innovators. His life was defined by purpose, humility, and a steadfast commitment to the public good. On Friday, the 12th of June 2026, families, friends, and colleagues and community members gathered at the University of Wollongong to pay tribute to one of Australia's most influential educators. The ceremony stood as a fitting tribute to a man whose influence extended far beyond academia and whose legacy will endure for generations to come. Professor McKinnon's contribution to Australian public life, higher education, and community development is profound. His impact will continue to be felt in the lives he shaped, the institution he built, and the values he championed. On behalf of Liverpool City Council, I extend our sincere condolences to his wife, Sue Walker, his family, friends, and colleagues. And I'd like to formally move that one, Council adopt this mayoral minute. 2, recognize the outstanding contribution of Emeritus Professor Ken McKinnon AO to the higher education, public life, and the Australian community. 3, extend its sincere condolences to his family. 4, places this tribute on public record in honor of his life and legacy. And I formally move that way. Is there any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? I declare it unanimous. And could I ask everyone to please stand for a minute of silence? Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. So we now have the committee reports. The first one, and let me just do this one, please. The CTT01 minutes of the Governance Committee, bless you, of the Governance Committee held on the 5th of May, page 399, tab 3 with the recommendation on page 399. There is one issue with it, which I would say it's has the potential to be unlawful. And if I can just refer you to page 400, item 7. And it just says here that the committee recommended that a workshop be arranged for councillors to review the proposals received and identify new ways to support and provide for our community's needs. The issue with that sentence is the word review. And I say that because that when these proposals, should they ever proceed and come back to council, if we have reviewed them prior to the process happening, then we potentially, I'm trying to figure the technical word, but we have involved ourselves at a stage which is not appropriate. So therefore we would not infect, I think was one of the words that we used last time when discussing this. We've infected the process. So while we don't necessarily review it, but we can be briefed on those matters.
Mr. Mayor, is there not an unsolicited proposal policy that's an endorsed position of council?
Yes, there is.
So should...
And I don't know what it actually says about that, but we'll have a quick look on that. Councillor Carneeb?
Yes. Look, I don't disagree with you, and on that basis, similar to what I said at the last council meeting, and I'll say the same thing, I'll move a motion, and the motion that I propose to move is that receives and notes the minutes of the governance meeting held on the 5th of May 2026. I've made these comments, that's the motion I intend to move, without endorsing the recommendation in the minutes, and this is why. I've raised it before at other council meetings, and I'll raise it again today, because if you go through all the committee minutes, there is probably 2 of those that don't support the recommendation, that don't endorse the recommendations in the minutes. What we end up having is a scenario where you, as the chair, fairly have to pull out an item discussed in general business that wasn't before the full council body, and that's fair, that is probably unlawful, and as a result needs to be pulled. But you can't be in a situation where you're endorsing the recommendations in the minutes when the full cohort of the council body is not either privy to those discussions or those items weren't in the council business paper. What should occur is that any recommendations that come from any committee, including the governance committee, either get put forward by a councillor or the staff in the form of a business agenda item, and then it gets voted upon here with the full cohort, as opposed to, for example, I think we skip from 1 to 4, we skip 5 and go to 6, and then there's general business 7 and 8. So we don't even know what, for whatever reason, it's structured in this particular way, but we're endorsing these as items without them coming before council. And that's, in my view, a problem, and it shouldn't occur with any of the committee minutes. What should occur is those minutes come back, we receive it and note it, and then that the council body, including councillors, have the opportunity to be able to put forward a motion. And on that basis, it should be a practice that we note the minutes unless there's something that's in there and then a particular councillor raises it on the floor. For example, one of these 6 items in total, and someone wants to move an urgency motion about it for any particular reason. We shouldn't be getting into the habit where decisions are made at committee meetings and then endorsed through the purposes of minutes. It's not a fair or proper way of conducting business.
Yeah, and thank you, Councillor. And I guess on the flip side, I do understand where you're coming from. It's common practice for boards and councils to have committees and to allow a more detailed and nuanced discussion about particular items, noting that all board members or councillors cannot attend them, and allows the committee to go into more detail regarding that. So I guess if the committee is just there to hear information, and then it comes to a council meeting and the whole matters are redebated and rediscussed, I don't know how that is a plausible, or what's the point of actually having a committee meeting if that's the case. So, but it's something that's commonly discussed with different boards. It's commonly discussed with different councils. I understand your point, but this is where ultimately you could say why people are given what they call it. I guess number one, all councils are part of committees, so they can attend and participate. I just don't want to be in a situation where committee does stuff and then we can't do anything because not everybody was there. Councillor McNaught, did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I hear what Councillor Carney was saying, but I wanted to talk about the point that you made, Mr. Mayor. And I agree. I was there for the discussion, and I think that the essence of what has been noted at item 7 is correct, and that it was a workshop that was intended to get us a little bit more across the process and a general discussion about unsolicited proposals. And so if we could reword that so that it's worded legally, I think the intent of the workshop as presented by staff would be beneficial to all of us.
So I think it's the word, if we change the word review to the word briefed, I think that is acceptable. To be briefed on that, and there's no issue with that. So so I just have to go back for a moment because I guess I raised the issue of regarding the lawfulness. In that way, it's proper. But Councillor Carney moved the motion. Firstly, about you said just to receive a note.
Correct. And look, I'm going to be doing the same thing with respect to all the committee reports. And I say that because if you look at, for example, the Environment Advisory Committee, but also the Waste Committee. Now, that particular committee, the Waste Committee I attended, and I know I attended with the Deputy Mayor in its most recent one, but in those particular committees, there's not endorsed recommendations of what was discussed there. Now, there's got to be a fair approach. So if we're talking about 6 items in a governance, and don't quote me, it might be 7, but if we're talking about items, we're left in a position where at council, what could occur is I might take issue with 2 of them, not 5 of them, and then I'm moving amendments to a motion to exclude the endorsement of recommendations in the minutes, and then it becomes a full-blown affair of having the debate again, as opposed to in receiving them as minutes, and then there's nothing stopping, for example, Councillor McNaught or Councillor Monahan for picking up one of those items, or all of them, in the form of either a notice of motion or staff, based on what was discussed at the committee, putting it in the agenda.
Yeah. So I just think on that, if you're based upon your feelings and your outlined intention, then can I recommend that you might want to look at amending the charters of all the committees, because ultimately it's the charter that's adopted by council that provides the authority and the structure of the committee to conduct its business. So
I don't want to do that. All I want to do is move a motion to accept the minute. No, I don't want to amend charters if council, of course, has the ability to endorse its recommendations. I just disagree with that course unless a full cohort of council who's there either getting the brief on it or agreeing on it in circumstances where there could be an agreement on a position before it comes to council, and then it comes in the form of an item that we endorse the recommendations. I'm not going to agree to that in terms of any minutes, and I've voiced this before.
Yeah, and I'm saying the way to deal with it is by amending the charters, so this doesn't happen every council meeting.
Or it's just the case that the council body resolves as a whole, depending on the way the vote goes, on whether or not it should be endorsing recommendations from committees, or whether they should be coming back to council in the form of a proper item, and rather than getting it in the minutes in the form of a paragraph summary.
All right, do you have a seconder for your motion?
Yes.
Second to Councillor Monahan.
Point 2 was not mine, so that would need to go in any other foreshadowed motion.
So some of those committees have public involvement, governance doesn't. The idea that we'd be voting there was...
Councillor McNaught?
So this is a substantive motion as moved by Councillor Carnib.
Yes.
Then I would like to move a foreshadowed motion, which is as per the book with the changing of the item 7 as was discussed.
Do you have a seconder? Second to Councillor Amun. All right. Is there any? That's fine. We'll keep it as a foreshadowed motion. That's fine. As per the book, sorry, with point 2 being changed, instead of the word review, be briefed, which is what you had on the screen before. Somebody does have the policy, we could just say it could be consistent with the policy. Yeah.
Perhaps it should be a point 3. So change the word to review to brief, and then ensure
And be
that
consistent with the policy.
ensure that any briefing remains consistent with the unsolicited proposals policy, which we resolved last year, I think.
Yep. So point 2 should still be point 2 as the recommendation. So if you bring that back up, that means you'll have a point 2, then you'll have a point 3 and a point 4. Yeah. think I spent half my time doing school reports trying to make numbering work, so well done on doing it so quickly. Thank you.
Just on 3, it's the word to be briefed. Be briefed, 2 words, inverted commas.
Be brief.
To be briefed.
Perfect. Thank you.
And just get rid of the double 2.
And then point 4 should be consistent with the unsolicited proposal policy.
Okay. All right. I think we've had enough of a debate about this, or if anybody has anything else they would like to add? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I fail to see what we're trying to achieve here. We have committee reports. In this case, there's 6 of them. And normally what we do is these committee reports go to council, and if there are issues, we talk about the ones we have issues with. What this now means is this has to be done for every committee. Is that what we're saying? This really only applies to the governance committee. What about all the others?
Which one?
This motion.
The motion or the foreshadowed motion?
The foreshadowed motion applies to.
The foreshadowed motion,
Yep.
sorry, Deputy Mayor, is effectively just adopting as per normal, right? So it doesn't really do anything different. It's just that it was brought to my attention that the word review is not the right word to be using. So that it's just there's an element of unlawfulness in it, and I used the word element on purpose. So yeah, but it's if you were to go to the original the motion as moved by Councillor Carneeb, then that has to be done for every single one. Then that's a different practice.
Okay.
Can I, just in response to the Deputy Mayor, there's 6 committee reports. The first 2 are governance. The third is the minutes of the Liverpool Powerhouse Board meeting. Those 3 committee reports, the recommendation is to note the minutes of the report, but endorse the recommendation in the minutes. The subsequent 3 committee reports, which are minutes of the Liverpool Waste Committee, CTT04, that only has notes the minutes. The subsequent one of CTT05, the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee, only has note the minutes. And similarly, the subsequent committee, I think it's the Environmental Committee, the Environment Advisory Committee, has note the minutes. So 3 of them have endorsing recommendations, whereas the other 3 just have noting the minutes. My proposal, Deputy Mayor, was that we should be just noting the minutes, and then if anyone wants to pursue a recommendation within that minutes, well then they've got the capacity to do so.
All right, so councillors, we'll deal with the substantial motion first as moved by Councillor Carneeb. If there's no further discussion, all those in favour, please raise your hands. Those against? I declare the motion lost.
Division.
All those in favour, please stand. Those against? We'll now move with the foreshadowed motion as moved by Councillor McNaught.
Before we continue, does that need to record a casting vote, given it was 5-5?
As part of a division, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The minutes will reflect that. That's just what I'm asking, because we don't normally have that circumstance come up.
Yeah, however it's written, we can highlight it if need be. So Councillor McNaught, anything else you want to say, or we can?
No, I'm happy with the motion as it is. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. All those in favour of the motion as moved by Councillor McNaught, please raise your hands. Against? I declare it carried.
Division.
Yep. All those in favour, please stand. Yep. Those against? Okay. Thank you. Next item is committee.
Mr. Mayor, I got a motion, but if it's easier, I may as well just move it for the next two committees. I don't want to debate on it. It's the same point I've made. So I could just move that the next two committees endorse the minutes as opposed to the recommendations, as opposed to dealing with them one by one. But it's a matter for you, the chair.
Just to clarify, and I think Deputy Mayor, the point is, so ultimately what you're saying is committees should just listen and not make any recommendations to council.
And I'm saying they can make recommendations to council, and it's on those councillors, the council body, to move a motion per the recommendations. That's what the committee should do, or it should inform the council operation, which is the staff, to put something in, or to put an item in the business paper. That's the only way that there would be a fair total vote of the council body. There's nothing stopping from anyone moving an urgency motion that arises out of the minutes.
Sorry, just to get clarification, can a single councillor instruct the CEO to put something on the agenda or a report, furnish a report to council through the mayor, the CEO?
No, but I'll pass over to the CEO.
Through the Mr Mayor, my understanding is no. Director Corporate Services or General Counsel, maybe the General Counsel.
Can I just have the question again, please?
Yes, my question was, can a councillor, i.e. can myself as Councillor Hart, instruct the CEO to put an item on the agenda? I go to the CEO saying, CEO, I want a report to council on matter B or A or B, whatever it is. Can I lawfully request the CEO to do that, or do I require a resolution of council for the CEO to present that report to council?
The short answer to your question is, I think, no, and yes to the latter part. Although councillors can obviously bring business forward by motion, which is a separate mechanism.
Thank you.
So yes, are you finished?
Yeah, no, that clarifies it.
So I think ultimately what Councillor Carnegie is saying, the way the committee structure should work is items get discussed within the committee, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Carnegie, they get discussed in the committee. The committee does not make a recommendation to council, and any recommendation should be brought up by an individual councillor through a notice of motion.
Well, there's nothing stopping, for example, when a report is received, like these committee reports, that a councillor, if wants to move an urgency motion and you deem it urgent, there's nothing stopping that from occurring. There's also nothing stopping that from receiving a report at a committee about a particular item, that discussion is had, a recommendation is put forward, and then it's on the council body to either through a notice of motion, urgency motion or otherwise, like we do with everything else. You just don't want to be seen to be selective with certain committees endorsing its recommendations as opposed to others. That aesthetically is not a proper way to conduct council business, in my view. It's just the full council cohort is here. They can vote one way or another on an item. That's just, I've said, this will not catch you by surprise. I've raised it before.
And I guess that's why council, once again, it gets down to the committee, the charter of the committee, because the charter is determined by the governing body.
Let's just hypothetically say that the Waste Committee, for example, resolves to spend X amount of dollars on illegal dumping, and that's a recommendation. Is it our practice that one or two councillors who attend that committee, whether it's myself, the Deputy Mayor or Councillor Rostevsky, that we just endorse it? No, it should come back before the whole council body, in fairness to those councillors who could not be there. That would only make sense. Yeah. And this is the forum for that.
So the committee once again can make recommendations to the council.
Yes.
Right, which is ideally by endorsing that recommendation.
They can make a recommendation to council. It doesn't necessarily mean that council should endorse every single one of its recommendations.
Yeah, but you're saying if you want it then as a separate agenda item with a whole detailed report on it, I guess there's an element of double handling is what I'm guessing, what I'm getting at.
There is, but otherwise you've got a scenario where you're discussing 7-8 items at a committee that are getting pushed through without the proper scrutiny and discussion. Like that's the opposing view, which is a fair point of view to make.
You know, I don't think any Westminster system that every item is agreed upon by the whole cabinet and every item. That's hence the
That's why there's debate. That's why we're here.
Henceforth, why the executive council makes decisions and every minister has powers accordingly to make a decision.
Look, I've said this before. I'd rather just move the motion in respect of the two, so we don't need to have two separate votes on it. But it's just going to be endorsing the minutes.
Yep, Councillor Moon.
It's just in relation to Councillor Carnib. I think the charter on the actual committee makes that decision. So basically, for argument's sake, the governance committee has a quorum of 5 minimum councillors, which means when that quorum is convened and they make a decision, they're representing a number of councillors. Where in the waste committee, there's only 2 councillors that are representing 11. So the charter makes that decision for you, whether we endorse it, it's endorsed there and it comes to us, or whether we make the decision for it on the floor. So that's the difference, I think. Unless we look at changing all the charters to just receiving and noting, it's a different scenario altogether.
I've got a very short question, just on Councillor Moon's point, through the CEO to the Director of Corporate Services. Is that a correct summation of the Governance Committee and its charter?
Not to my understanding. My understanding is that council can make resolutions, and I think a committee as a whole can, but not a committee of 5 councillors can't make resolutions, but they can refer matters to the council.
Yeah, I think the point, I think that's if you can delegate the functions of council to a committee, however, the committee must consist of all council members.
That's correct.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, then it can still make recommendations.
That's right.
Deputy Mayor?
My understanding is, with committees, councillors read the reports, read the minutes, whatever else, and then can move notices of motions. They don't have to be urgency motions, just notice of motions relative to that committee. That's always been the case. I can't see why there's any difference now.
No, the way the committee, when we make a resolution in a committee, that's what's getting reported to us here. Endorse the recommendations in the minutes, which is the way we've always conducted ourselves in that fashion.
And then when it comes to council, with all the councillors there, because committees very rarely have all the councillors there, then the issue may or may not be debated. Depending on a councillor's point of view, they may not like what the committee has recommended, and then you put up a notice of motion to that, based on that committee's report, and that's what's debated at council. I can't see why there's an issue.
Correct. So you can pull something out of it that you don't agree with and do it. But I think what Councillor Carney is saying is wholesale, the committee should not make any recommendations to council.
We just agreed when we spoke that you agreed with me that, of course, a committee can make recommendations. I'm not saying that they can't make recommendations. That's their intent. That's their purpose. What I'm saying is that there should be a consistent approach across all committees, not select committees. And that consistent approach is that if a committee makes a recommendation, that we as a council note those recommendations. And then as a council body, people, like the Deputy Mayor said, councillors, can move a notice of motion, either generally through the business paper, an urgency paper, or we've seen it before where something's discussed there and council staff will tell us it's coming to the council meeting. That occurs.
Yeah, but so once again, if
I'm just after a consistent approach, not
it's
endorsing recommendation in one committee and not another.
I
don't want to continue on.
The consistent is it's depend on the charter of the committee. So some charters can and some can't, subject to what their composition is.
Is exactly what the Deputy Mayor said, that because there is never, in theory, a full council body at every committee, that if recommendations are put forward, in the Deputy Mayor's experience, they come before the council, and then it's on the councillor to put forward a notice of motion or otherwise. If something's urgent, it will come up in the business paper or people can move urgency motions.
Yeah, but they're usually done to withdraw things that you don't agree with versus, there's 10 items and we have to move everyone individually.
Well, we shouldn't be in a practice where we're moving. I'm going to start repeating myself. I'll leave it at that.
No, it's Councillor McNaught.
I just wanted to make a point that the governance committee itself is a committee of council and the other committees are advisory community committees to council, and so they operate under different charters, and that perhaps we could get like just a brief email or something, from staff at some point, not now, or we can discuss it another time about the difference in the charters, one being a community committee and one being a committee of council.
All right. I think everyone gets the point. I think that's, if we could get that information, I think that'd be helpful. So we have a motion moved by Councillor Carneeb that is about receiving just point one of the recommendation. Seconded by Councillor Monahan. Yes. Yep. Seconded. Yes. Councillor McNaught.
I have a foreshadowed motion
Yes. Councillor.
that, are we going committee by committee, or are we doing them all at once, or?
Committee 3.
Which two? So
Just Committee 3.
Committee three?
The other 3 don't have this issue.
Okay. So for committee, so for committee 2 and for committee 3.
Correct.
Yeah. So, but Councillor McNaught, you can move it if you wanted to everyone if you wanted to, or just.
I'm happy to move the recommendation in the book for committees 2 and 3.
Do you have a seconder? Second, Councillor Moon. Okay, so that's a four. Let's call it the foreshadowed. Is there anyone want to discuss these matters further?
Just that it includes Committee 3 as well.
Committee 2 and 3, please. So Councillor Carneeb's motion is regarding Committee 2 and 3, and Councillor McNaught is also for Committee 2 and 3. Okay, Councillor Carneeb, would you like your right of reply?
No, thank you.
Okay, we'll put the motion as moved by Councillor Carneeb. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Those against? Declare it lost. We'll now deal with Councillor McNaught's motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Those against? Declare it carried. So we'll now move to Committee 4.
I move that we move the rest as a whole, Mr Mayor.
Yep. Committee 4, 5 and 6, moved as a whole.
And,
And what, sorry?
and as per the recommendation.
That's the recommendation. Do you have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Moon. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, declare it carried. So we'll now move on to Nom 01, page 480, tab 9, with recommendation on page 480. That's Councillor Hart. Your motion?
Yes, I'd like to move as per the book, please.
Do you have a seconder? Second, Councillor Moon. Any discussion?
I think this is pretty straightforward. If we have a report that comes to the Governance Committee meeting on the progress and the status updates of both our Capital Works program and our WISIG program, I think that will provide better governance and an opportunity to discuss any issues that may arise over the course of the next couple of years when council staff are working very hard to deliver the fantastic WISIG projects that are in the pipeline.
I have a proposed amendment, if the mover and the seconder were amenable to it, that the monthly update on the WISIG program and the status of the progress of the Capital Works program comes to a council meeting as opposed to a governance meeting. If not amenable, I'll clearly indicate that I'll move a foreshadowed motion to that effect.
I think noting through to the Mayor, Councillor Monahan, I don't mind. I don't mind the essence of what you're proposing, but I feel like maybe that should just be noting what the CEO's comment was in the motion or the notice of motion that I've provided, that it might be a bit too frequent, and perhaps it can be a monthly report to the Governance Committee meeting, and then perhaps a bi-monthly or quarterly report to Council, if Councillor Monahan is amenable to that. I'm just trying to be reasonable, and I don't want to give staff too much more work than they have to. And if we're not happy with the frequency, then we can always adjust it.
Just in response to Councillor Hart, if they're preparing the report monthly for the governance committee meeting, it's just simply putting it in the council paper instead of the governance committee. So it's not necessarily they're doing more. It's not directing the CEO to direct the staff to do more work. It's just placing it in a different meeting agenda, in theory.
What do you ask?
Councillor Moon.
It appears that the CEO has something to say. You on that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just make the comments that council will be receiving about 112 project reports, some of about $8,000 every month, and whether this would result in pretty repetitive information with limited value to council, given that projects, particularly in the larger cost boundaries, don't change every 3 or 4 weeks. So it's a real challenge for staff to do this. And monthly reporting on 112 projects may not be the best use of our time.
On that note, my questions to the CEO, would a quarterly report be more practicable?
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, that's what's suggested in the response to this notice of motion.
Councillor Hart.
I'm happy to accept. I would like the monthly reporting to council meetings and then potentially quarterly reporting. Sorry, monthly reporting to governance committee meetings, and feel so inclined, if you want to see it every month, then we can have it on the council meeting agenda for the sake of moving along with this meeting.
Would you be amenable to that, Councillor Monahan?
I'll just propose a foreshadowed motion that council direct the CEO to present a quarterly update on the WISIG program to council meeting, and 2, to present a quarterly update on the status and progress of the Capital Works program to a council meeting.
All right. Do you have a seconder for that?
Yes.
Seconder, Councillor Carnegie. So we have that as a foreshadow. Just looking at Councillor Hart, so just to make sure. So you're saying, can you monthly to the governance committee, and how often to council? Quarterly?
So that gives the opportunity to have a more in-depth look at any specific projects that might come to the attention of councillors. And it also basically is a standing item in the governance committee agenda. Well, the way I've envisioned it is that it becomes a standing item in the governance committee meeting agenda where, I think every governance committee meeting I've attended, there's always been a question from a councillor, oh, how's this project going? So I guess it kind of formalises it by having it as a monthly item in governance committee agenda, and then for a more high-level look, then you have your quarterly reports to council.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. So if we can just have that, make sure that's reflected in the motion. I want to speak for this. When we used to have, in my first term as mayor, we would have our monthly committee meetings on the committee day, if you remember, Deputy Mayor. And one of them was there was the Budget and Finance Committee that would meet monthly, and as well as one of them was a Capital Works committee, and we would meet monthly, and we would look at all the projects, especially the main projects of where they were at, how they were tracking. So we used to have a monthly update on the Capital Works program that used to happen on that basis. I'm sure we didn't go down to the tiniest projects, but we were looking at, I can remember at least probably 20 to 30 ones that we probably caught our attention that we would keep an eye on. And I think it worked good because we delivered many projects, on time and on budget during that term, including Carnes Hill and so on and so forth. Yeah, CEO?
Thank you. Through the Mayor, can I just ask for some indulgence in relation to project threshold? Mr. Mayor, you spoke about 20 or 30 projects per month. You're asking us to do, or the staff to do 4 and a half times more than that. And if I could just seek your indulgence to maybe apply the third last paragraph, maybe projects with a cost plan exceeding X million. At the moment, the author, which was Mr. Cicluna into me, said $3 million. If projects over $3 million represented 40 to 50 projects, would that suffice, or do we want to do projects that are worth $8,000?
On that note, I'll just have a couple of questions to the CEO.
Yeah, just before you go there, Councillor, I think to answer your question, I think we'd have to look at least $1 million as a threshold, because 1 million covers your parks and your sporting fields, which are just as important for every other ones. I'll get you in a moment, Councilman. Yes.
So, for example, if someone wanted to ask a question about Synergich Park and the budget allocation is less than $1 million for next financial year, then it wouldn't come up on whatever report is furnished to council. It would essentially depend on the budget allocation in the capital works program for that given financial year. And if given, for example, Synergich Park is obviously on the radar of plenty of councillors, I think all of us actually, then that would not meet the threshold. So I don't want to limit ourselves to that specifically, because then those things that are in the pipeline, especially in Edmondson Park and Austral, won't be picked up by these reports.
And look, and that's a valid point, because you'd think any project would have a works program associated with it. You would think so. It would be in the DMF. So should a report that could be generated. I think that's what your intention is, Councillor Hart. Yep. Councillor Monahan.
So how many projects are currently included within the draft 2026-2027 capital expenditure program to the CEO?
Thank you, through the Mayor. I don't know. Director of Operations, you got any rough estimate on that?
So through the CEO, remember the capital works program is just not only projects delivered by operations, it's all of council. So it can include the other directorates, and it does. So in terms of capital works projects for operations, that could be, from memory, 50 or 60 projects that we would have alone, besides other parts of the operational side of council. They too would have their own projects in the capital works budgets.
So to the CEO, is the figure 140 projects on page 480 of the papers an accurate figure?
Through the Mayor, yes it is, and that reflects the exact same discussion from the Director in that this is right across the whole of the council. So 140 projects ranging in value from $8,000 to $1 million.
And so
Less than 1 million.
112 of those projects have a value of less than $1 million. Is that correct?
Through the Mayor, yes.
And is it accurate to say that the smallest capital expenditure program inclusion is a total value of $8,000?
Through the Mayor, as per the report, yes.
And I think you've said this earlier, CEO, but I'm happy to be corrected. There's probably not going to be a lot of movement on a project worth $8,000 over a period of 28 days. Is that correct?
Through the Mayor, yes, although the whole project could be expunged in 28 days.
So again, to the CEO, in terms of a practical application of this, would it be fair to suggest that it would be simpler for council staff to provide this on a quarterly basis?
Through the Mayor, that's what we have suggested from the staff.
I just want to make the point that council resolves the capital works program, and therefore should we not be monitoring its progress no matter how big or small the project is? we resolved it. We agreed to it. Shouldn't we monitor and track it? I think that's good governance.
I agree with your sentiments, Councillor. 100%.
Thank you. I think we're bogged down, and I think we're all at cross purposes at this point.
Yeah.
I think the essence, I think extra monitoring and controlling of our capital works and our WISIG program is important, because those are the two key things that the community care about, is us delivering these WISIG projects, A, and our capital works program delivering the parks, the footpaths and whatever, roundabouts, pedestrian crossings, whatever it is. And yes, I get the point of it could be an $8,000 project. But I don't see the problem with that being reported to council, because if it's an $8,000 project, it'll probably be completed in 28 days. So on that report, theoretically, on that line item, it would go from incomplete, and the next council, the next report, the next month, it will go to complete. I don't think it's a pretty simple binary thing. It's either done or not done for small projects like that.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we've had. Deputy Mayor?
Look, from my point of view, in the past, we have had quarterly reports. And those quarterly reports, I must admit, they were fairly extensive. They included photographs of the stages of various major projects. And it was really only the major projects that we looked at. We didn't look at the $8,000 projects. We looked at multi-million-dollar projects, as far as I can remember. Previous director, Raju Tar, did that. He provided those reports on a quarterly basis. They were fairly extensive. They were at a council meeting, and I think they were given at briefing sessions as well. And we looked at those. I'm conscious of the fact that if we look at every one of this, it's going to take a lot of time and effort on council staff. Although I can understand if you've got a system where a project is up to a certain point, it's just a matter of ticking a box and saying it's there or it's not there. I would expect that there would be, you try and set up a database with that information there and you just progressively update it. I can't see that being a major problem, but I'm happy with just quarterly reports, to be honest, providing those quarterly reports are concentrated on issues that we currently get asked about. For instance, Synergy Park, the M7 underpass, all of those issues which are currently in the media, and I don't have the answers. And I'd love to be able to provide the answers, but we can't. So I'm not sure. We need to meet somewhere in between this so that we can address all points of view.
Would in between be every other month?
This is like whether we're going to have our council meetings at 5 o'clock, 5:30 or 6 o'clock. If that's going to make everyone happy, I'm more than happy to go to bi-monthly, and it goes alternate. So Capital Works Program, WISIG, Capital Works Program, WISIG. Is everyone happy with that?
Whatever. See, yes, every 2 months. Is that a middle ground for you, Deputy Mayor? Okay. Would the move of the foreshadowed motion, for the sake of...
I'm happy for Councillor Hart to move whatever he suggests to move.
No worries.
I am sticking with that,
All good.
and we can move to a vote.
Okay, all
And
good.
we can see exactly how it's going to go. I can predict how it's going to go, and we can move on.
Yes or no would have sufficed, but thank you, Councillor Monahan. So if we can make that Councillor Hart's motion every 2 months, is the seconder happy with that? Councillor Moon? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
I've just got one question, Mr Mayor,
Yes.
to the CEO. Is now an appropriate time?
Yep.
Yeah, just through the chair to the CEO. The comments that you provided in the summary, in particular, you've divvied it up into essentially there's approximately 140 projects, 112 of them range between $8,000 to $1 million, so that would leave approximately about 28 projects in excess of that $1 million figure. And in that paragraph prior, you've indicated, well, this ensures robust internal monitoring and project controls, extending similar detailed reporting to councillors on a monthly basis would likely result in largely repetitive information with limited additional value. So there's that one comment, and then there's a last paragraph on the third paragraph that states, reporting on this volume of projects in detail or even in a summarised program level on a monthly basis would require significant additional resourcing and would unlikely to deliver commensurate value. Are those two comments founded upon that in circumstances where we're going to be receiving monthly reports to this effect, that largely not much is going to change, whereas a 3-month report would give us a more detailed picture and understanding as to progress or lack thereof?
Through the Mayor, yes, you're correct. And again, the comments are dealing with the purpose of the reporting. So we have project control groups on every WISIG project. So the purpose of the reporting, if it's just for monitoring, that's where the limited additional value comes in. If the reporting's only for that purpose, reporting only, that's where the value issue is constrained.
I just want to point out, councillors, if you go to the Capital Works program, which we just approved in this meeting, and you look at the different items that are there, the overwhelming majority of these are six digits, decent numbers. The ones that fall below $100,000, which apparently we shouldn't be paying attention to, in the frequency as we've been discussed. Sorry, I'll withdraw my comment. That don't require as much attention. Pretty much all scrutiny. Pretty much all land in Austral, and we're talking about design of the parks, of what's going on. And as an example. Where did I go? I lost my page. It's a big program. But there's all these designs of this park in Austral, that park in Austral, and we all know that, the community has been screaming for parks in Austral. Here we go. So I think I would, in deciding on which way to vote for this motion, I would be recommending that council should be looking at the Capital Works program and say, well, do they want to know about these things or do they not want to know about these things? Getting 6 reports a year should not be too much. This should be sitting in the DMF, Microsoft project, something along those lines. I can turn around and say this how it is. Because I can tell you now, there are numerous projects which, I'm concerned about where they are in the life cycle, knowing that we're finishing the Capital Works, we're finishing the financial year in 8 days.
And on that point, Mr. Mayor, there is a previous resolution of council, because I remember I moved it, that we get updates on the DMF. Can someone take that on notice and see if those are actually reported to us?
There's motions about that. There's motions that we get a Gantt chart with every motion that we pass to understand the implementation of the timeline. There's also the committee that we established a couple of months ago when we moved the grass policy about parks and infrastructure.
It's a property report.
All right, there's a property report. Those things aren't coming back to us.
Information's not coming to us.
And they're resolutions of council.
Exactly.
So I'll take that as your right of reply.
Yep.
All right, councillors, we'll deal with the motion as moved by Councillor Hart for bi-monthly reports. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? Declare the motion carried. Next item is NOM 02, page 482, tab 10, recognition page 483. Councillor Manisa.
I'd like to move the motion on page 483.
Yes, do you have a seconder?
I'm waiting for someone to change the microphone. Yes.
Councillor, to speak for your motion?
Yes, so, it's pretty self-explanatory. Local Park 22 in Austral, the long-awaited park. I'm so glad that that's finally underway. I would like for us to consider naming it Sawinski Park. So Dr. Sawinski had a medical practice right across from that park since 1978. You know, he was a Polish immigrant. His contribution to the Austral community were quite significant. He not only served people within his medical practice, the wider community, he made home visits. He went to Scalabrini retirement village and looked after all the residents there as well. So I think that we should honour the legacy that he's left. He's in a nursing home himself at the moment as well. And I know it is not the usual practice to name parks or streets and the like after someone that is still living. But I think it would be nice if, you know, he was there to see his service to the community being honoured through naming the park after him.
That's it. Councillor McNaught?
I just have a couple of questions. Through the Mayor to the CEO, when are we envisaging that Park 22 will be completed?
Thank you. Through the Mayor to Director Operations.
If you had a report on the Capital Works program, you'd know. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there.
Through the CEO, so stage one will be completed by the end of the month for that park, and then stage two will commence. So if the park is to be named, it would be shortly.
And thank you. And again, sorry, through the Mayor to the appropriate director. So the Geographic Namings Board, as we can see by the report, usually doesn't support naming parks after people who are still living. It's right though, is it not, that buildings are a different process?
Yes, through the Mayor to the Director, Planning and Design.
Through the CEO, yes, so the Geographical Namings Board won't allow a park or a street to be named after a person that's alive or somebody that has been deceased within the 12-month period of their death. A building is something that doesn't require the same. So the Geographical Naming Board is the overseer of names for the purpose of legal naming of locations and places. Buildings are often different because they're legally identified by their street address. So you have a lot more flexibility and they're not required to oversee the naming of a building in the same fashion.
Thank you.
Can I just make a recommendation while it's Councillor Munija, that
Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you. It's not Munija, it's Muniza.
Muniza, thank you. Can I recommend, Councillor Muniza, that the timing probably with Park 22 doesn't work, especially with the geographical name boards and all that. As point one, as a point. The second point is there's a resolution about naming another park about someone in Austral, and that's already in the process. And I guess, and rather than sort of maybe adding this into that process as well. And I'm just not. Did we end up resolving the memorial policy, or is that still? We have resolved that. Is it kind of through the CEO? Is this covered in that, or as in naming of parks? Park naming, is it?
No, through the Mayor to the Director, Planning and Design.
No.
Through the CEO, that's separate. I would have to take on notice exactly what I'm recalling, but there is something by way of a resolution that talks about effectively a committee which establishes a pool of names for Austral Park. So between myself and the Director of Community and Lifestyle, we're trying to put together resources where all the right people are consulted, so councillors, community members, Aboriginal land councils, to develop a pool effectively of names that can be used for parks, but that hasn't been finalised yet. That's completely separate to the memorial policy.
Would you be open to Councillor Meneza to add after the words Park 22 or another park?
Just on the motion, I appreciate the policy extract that's contained on pages 483, 484, namely that it is not recommended by the Geographical Names Board to name places that commemorate a living person, not that we are prohibited from doing so. Guidelines recommend that generally only the surname should be used, which is what is proposed here, and that council may, in exceptional circumstances, approve a place name or a particular community facility that honours a living person, but is qualified by that this does not apply to street names and park naming. Whilst as recommended by the CEO that council wait, the proposal is that Park 22, the proposal is that a report be provided back to council on the process, requirements and implications of naming the park by the surname of a living person. Whilst not recommended, we're not precluded from doing that, and I appreciate the advice that we've been given, but I think the particular motion as it stands is pressed in the current form.
So once again, Councillor Meneza, just would you be open to having the words after the words Park 22 or another park?
I would like to go ahead with the original motion and request that the CEO investigate the sustainability of naming local Park 22 Sawinski Park, because his medical practice was right across from Sawinski Park, local Park 22.
Okay, so no. Okay,
No.
cool. Deputy Mayor?
Could I make a suggestion? We were able to name the Carnes Hill Community Centre after the cricketer while he was alive. I think he still is. But we could probably do the same thing. If we can't name a park after a living person, maybe what we can do is look at a community centre that is to be built shortly at some time, so we could put it into play, that whatever community centre is going to be built in the Austral area, that it is named after that person. And that way, I'm sure we will be building something in the near future, and that would solve the issue, and the person would see his name in print.
And on that point, Deputy Mayor, there is as part of the potentially potential calls development of that actual site where the surgery was, there will be an element of a community centre in that as part of our contribution. So yes, it would be on that potential premises.
And we can identify it with our new capital works program updates bi-monthly.
Yes. I guess anyway, the reality is, so we don't have to go all night, this is only requesting a report, and I think all of those things can be investigated as part of this report. So if Councillor Meneza is happy, if we can, councillors want to move on? Point 5, what are you recommending, Councillor AJ? If you can turn on your microphone, please.
Just what Deputy Mayor just suggested, that if there's a community centre going to be built in that area, we'll consider the doctor name to be named after that, so that it's written.
I think, Mr. Bear, I think you basically echoed what Councillor Ajay said by saying that that's going to come out in the report anyway, whether or not there's going to be a nearby facility. So it'll come back. It's just a report. if the CEO recommends that there's going to be a community centre in 12 months or 2 years or whatever the case may be, that'll come back and then we can make a decision then. So just asking a report about the process, the requirements, the implications. It could be recommended that what you suggested comes back sooner in the purposes of the report. Doesn't need to be put in as a 0.5. But it doesn't change anything.
I'll leave it in the hands of Councillor Menzies if you'd like to add that as a 0.5, as recommended by Councillor AJ.
I echo what Councillor Kanib said. I would be amenable to just say on the process requirements and implications of such a proposal or any alternative proposals.
I think that covers it.
Yeah.
Right. Is the seconder happy with that? Yes?
Yep.
Okay, and remove the 0.5. All right. Would you like a right to reply, Councillor Nisa?
No.
No. All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Declare it unanimous. Next item is NOM 03, Councillor Hart. Page 485, tab 11, the recommendation, page 485.
Yes, I move the recommendation.
Do you have a seconder? Deputy Mayor? Any discussion?
Yes, it's quite simple. I think this is, in my discussions with the Deputy Mayor about this, going down history lane, at the Francis Greenway Centre at the old council chambers, there was a wonderful wall of mayors and councillors from different council terms, and I guess this motion is essentially let's put civic into civic place in our new council chambers, add a bit more civicness, if that's a word, around this place. Very modest budget. I think it's a nice thing to have.
Any further discussion?
Look, I won't speak very long against it. I'll just note my formal opposition to the idea of any more personal recognition of any individual or particular person or people involved in council. I mean, it's a group effort, and I don't think it serves the
That's why it's all
purpose or
councillors.
need of. If I could continue uninterruptedly. I didn't interrupt you, did I?
You would have been done if you just...
Through the Mayor to Councillor Hart, I didn't interrupt you, did I?
You've interrupted me multiple times before, so if you want to go down that pathway, I'm more than happy to have the discussion.
No, the answer was no, I didn't interrupt you as you moved it and spoke for it. All I wanted to say was just noting that formally I was going to vote against it. It's all it had to be, all it was going to be. But
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, just briefly, point 3, direct the CEO to prepare and install an expanded councillor recognition display in civic place to include a group photo of all councillors from current and previous terms. I think the problem is that for this council, unless AI is utilised, we don't currently hold a group photo of all of us. So that's a bit of a problem. I think you'd have to agree.
This resolution is already standing on the books, hence why I was in the Greenway Centre. Motions don't expire over time in reality, but well, I think it's a matter of, I guess it's being re-emphasised here. But yes, this motion does not preclude, well, no, there's Photoshop before there was AI, Councillor, so.
Sorry?
There's Photoshop before there was AI.
No, I appreciate that, but there's a recent photo that's either been Photoshop or AI, I don't know, but there's one that includes all of us, but I don't know who was there and who wasn't there and cropped in, or cropped out, yeah. Look, I'm just going to be voting against it for the sake of it's $5,000. I know people will say that it's not a significant sum of money, and I can appreciate that, but a sum of money in the scheme of things where we talk about the budget and things and money is scarce, and it's 5,000. I know people may scoff at what I say, but it's still money, and it's money that we need to be spending in the right way, and I don't think that right now is the time to be spending money on photos.
Deputy Mayor?
Yes, look, this goes back, actually goes back quite a few years that I raised this issue when we were in the council chambers that was burnt down. And in that council chambers, there were photographs of each of the mayors for however many years we go back. And my issue is that it's not the mayor that is the only person that dictates or controls what council does. Unfortunately, all the councillors in any of those terms are not recognised unless you go through the history books. The least that I thought we could do is, instead of having a mayoral photo, at the time I suggested instead of having a mayoral photo, we have a group photo, and in that group photo, all the councillors are recognised for the works that they've contributed in that term. That hasn't been done for a long time. I understand other councillors don't do that. And I believe that this council should recognise the works of the councillors that were part of that council. I believe I have done enough work in my 18 years as a councillor to get that kind of respect. That's what I'm asking for, nothing more. That recognition that my children, my grandchildren and so on in years to come can see that I as a councillor put in some effort, and at the very least that we can do is put that recognition on a photo, a group photo, I thought, rather than just only a mayoral photo. I put this up, I think, 8 years ago, thereabouts, and at the time it was voted to have that. It hasn't happened, but I believe we should be doing those sorts of things for the recognition that councillors have put in. This is work that councillors, we get a pittance for what we do compared to what state and federal politicians earn, or yes, probably earn, where, you know, you look at us and we get 1/8 of what the local members get for the efforts we put in. And I can tell you as a councillor, I put in my 40 to 60 hours a week for what I do, and I think the very least that I should get is recognition for that, not as the deputy mayor or as the mayor or whatever, but as a councillor who put in some effort for this community. And I think we all deserve that at the very least.
Thank Councillor AJ.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to, you kind of already said, Deputy Mayor, what I was going to say. I remember back in 33 Moore Street, we had group pictures of all of the council, and I remember you bringing that up, Deputy Mayor, some years ago. So this is just really a reaffirmation of recognising everybody on that civic hall.
Councillor AJ.
Yeah, and just to emphasize on that, the work we do in the community, even staff don't know that I'm a councillor. I have to explain myself all the time. So I think this will also help some of us to be recognized that we are elected officials. So I agree with you. So I support that we put our photos where the community can see it. And it's also be a motivational for other young people in the community to see that they can also come to Liverpool Council and put their hand up for office of work. Thank you.
And just before I go to Councillor Hart for his right of reply, I just want to say that as someone who spends probably the most time on level 11, that just about every time somebody walks from the lift down the hall and they stop for a moment and they reflect upon the photos of the different mayors, and it's just a sort of takes people down through memory lane, so to speak, from looking at, and I know I like to look at it and see different mayors, you know, different times, different styles, you know, so I think it's always interesting. It's always a comment about Mark Latham, you know, so that's always makes things fun, but it's a good conversation, and I think, you know, having it is part of being civic, and it's part of that, you know, what councils are about. So I think it'd be good to have more photos on there, more discussion. That's what it's about. Councillor Hart, you right to reply?
Yeah, I know exactly which photo Councillor Carnib's talking about, the AI/photoshopped one. Please don't use that, because Councillor Rostevsky looks just about as tall as Councillor Carnib, and that's obviously, you know, it's not accurate. So if we can get an accurate representation of all of us, that'll be great.
All right, thank you. No, there being no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, I'll declare it carried.
Division, please.
Division, all those in favour, please stand. Those against? Thank you. My recollection is Nom 4 is done? Yes. Nom 4 is done, yep. All right. Questions? Yep, I'm happy with question 5. We have an answer for question 6. Question 7, 8, and 9.
Sorry, just what was the exact figure for question with notice 10? Through the Mayor, the CEO? Sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
Question 10. What was the question, Councillor? Can you read it out, please?
The cost of the proceedings.
It's not on the close cover.
No.
Which,
It's in the paper. It'll be
yes, I think he wants it, asking if it's on the record.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, you want me to say what's in the paper?
I think this is the question that Councillor Hart.
Can't find it.
Can I ask just a question just before we get into this, and I've got no issues with this being not under confidential cover because it's clearly not, but at the last council meeting, which is this council meeting, just before it got adjourned, and I'm not going to get into what was discussed, but we went into confidential, and the purposes of going into confidential were in respect of, if I could categorise them as legal options, right? And in respect of going to confidential, in respect to that item, which we're going to revisit today, we've gone into confidential there, but we haven't been speaking about, and this is just a question through to the chair, to the CEO, or perhaps you can answer it, the chair. Who determines whether or not it goes into confidential? Like, the reality of this is a particular figure, and it's not in confidential, which is perfectly fine. I think that anything that, in respect of any legal affairs or pursuing legal affairs or legal type of battles that council involved itself in, well, the community should know, particularly this one and any other ones that council ought to either be defending or commencing against. But what's the difference? I'm just on this item, it's fine, but what's the difference? Like, what makes what Councillor Hart raised last time confidential, just due to the nature and the discussion of it, because nothing we discussed was in essence confidential, right? Whereas this is a cost and it's a figure.
Well, in simple terms, Councillor, the agenda is prepared by the CEO, and from our point of view, it is the CEO who
determines its lawfulness.
Yes, and through his staff and the advice that he gets. But from our point of view, it doesn't matter, person X in department Y. Yep. Ultimately, it's the CEO.
Okay, just as a rule of thumb, just as a question, and not to categorise this, and I'll just ask it once, but if there is a item that is either put forward by a councillor, sorry?
Yeah, go on, I'll answer. I've got some more information for you.
No, go for it, you go first.
No, I was going to say, there was, I'm pretty sure, and I think I had this with my original set of papers from the other night, that there was advice, I think, sought about this, and that was given about, yes, this is actually, it's public information, therefore
it's not confidential.
Correct.
Oh, so the fact that it was public steered it away from being confidential. Well, that kind of answers my question, because my question was, if it wasn't public, is the fact that there is figures associated with this item, would that foundationally make it confidential or not necessarily? In your view, when you're assessing its lawfulness?
Thank you. Through the Mayor. Director of Corporate Services.
Councillors, Section 10A2 of the Local Government Act prescribes what council can close to the public. If this does not meet that criteria.
Thank you.
So just confirming the figure.
CEO?
Thank you. Through the Mayor, the figure in the report is $251,528.64.
That was council's cost of the proceedings?
Just referring to the report again, council's cost of the proceedings was $251,528.64.
in Ristevski versus Liverpool City Council.
With respect to the Supreme Court matter of Peter Ristevski versus Liverpool City Council, case 70677, Council's cost of the proceedings were $251,528.64.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the questions, which leaves us one item on the agenda. Item CEO 05.
I move that we move back into.
Maniza?
Why do we skip my question with notice on 07?
Yeah, we mentioned that there was nothing raised about it, but it's a question. What would you like to know about the question, the answer?
I would like to move an urgency motion.
Okay, what's your urgency motion, councillor?
Do you want me to read it out? It's a bit long, or I can circulate it.
Yeah, I guess I need to see the question first with regard to the motion first and see its urgency.
Do you want me to read it out? I'm happy to read it out.
Do we have if you want to? Want?
I'd like a printed copy, but if we want to take a short break to review it, that would be.
All right. Can we print out some copies, please, distribute to councillors, and have a 5-minute recess, and then we'll deal with that. Thank you. resume. Councillor Meniza, you're moving a urgency motion.
Yes.
What is your urgency motion?
So it's, I believe, before us. We've got it printed, and look, I think it's the perfect time to consider this because the question with notice did not really answer the questions directly. While I do appreciate the effort that the staff have put in, but we've discussed and raised other financial matters in this meeting, so I think it's a good time to discuss this one. I've met with some community members that are very concerned about delivery of Synergy Reserve, and I just think we should consider what's in my urgency motion now, tonight.
So the question is, why is it urgent?
Like I said, we've discussed other financial matters. We've just dealt with the budget. This is a very important item for the community. I don't see why it's not.
So under section 9.3b, it talks of the code of meeting practice. Why does it require a decision by the council before the next scheduled ordinary meeting? And it says, just to, I don't know, read out, the business is to be considered as ruled by the chairperson to be of great urgency on the grounds that it requires a decision by the council before the next scheduled ordinary meeting.
Because it deals with the budget.
See, if it were to say something along the lines that talked about we need this because there's some sort of grants coming up that we need to lobby for, that it must be done within by a certain amount of time. I just don't see the great urgency that it can't be dealt with at the next council meeting. I get we've just dealt with the budget, we've adopted the budget, but this once again doesn't really, it's not allocating any expenditure as such that relates to the budget.
Look, it's very simple. It's asking for basically some questions to be answered and a report of sorts to be prepared. I don't see why we can't deal with it now, rather than wait for another month for it to be dealt with at another meeting and delayed further. There's no reason why we can't consider this and get the questions answered by the next meeting.
Councillor, I can't see this passing the test under that's stated in section 9.3 B on the urgency. I'll give you one more chance if you can explain the urgency, that why it should happen now versus that. I'll give it to. I just can't see the in your motion as structured, the urgency, the great urgency as outlined in 9.3 B.
Look, ultimately, it's your ruling, so you can rule as you see fit. I think it's urgent. I think I've outlined why it's urgent. I think I've outlined why we need to deal with it tonight. There's no reason not to. But like I said, ultimately, if you don't think it's urgent, then so be it.
Yeah, Councillor, I just can't, based on how it's structured and the argument you put forward, I can't see how it passes 9.3, the test of 9.3B. Councillor Carnegie.
Very briefly, I think it's an important motion, and I think there is a degree of urgency to it. And I know it's your ruling as the chair, but when we look back at the discussion of the last meeting, which is essentially this meeting that was adjourned, and the submissions and commentary that we received from the residents, the highest tally of submissions were around Synergy Park. Now, if that's not urgent, really, what is ever going to be urgent in the circumstances? Now, I think it was Councillor Muniza who asked questions about whether or not it was included in the current budget, and certain funding and works is included in there to get it off the ground. But I think post that, to preface the long-term construction of Synergy Reserve for the people in Edmondson Park, it can't harm, and it certainly would be urgent, noting the community's concern. It's not necessarily, it may not be urgent and subjective to both you or I, but it was clearly urgent to the submitters in reply to the budget and the capital works program that was put out to public exhibition. If anything, it was probably the most urgent in the community's mind. If you were ever going to rule on something that's urgent, I would say it's this. And in theory, it's just a report. It'll come back. It's 60 days, so it's not as if it puts pressure on the CEO and the staff to prepare it by the next council meeting. It's 60 days, so it probably won't even come back at the next meeting or the one after. It'll be the third meeting after that. So it gives it ample time to be responded to.
And thank you, Councillor Carney, and I agree with the sentiments of the motion, and I'm happy to support the motion. I just can't see an argument before me that passes the great urgency test as outlined in this code of meeting practice. So on that basis, I cannot rule this as an urgency motion, and I recommend council to put it up at the next council meeting.
But ultimately, it's your discretion to accept the argument as to whether or not it is urgent. You're deciding to exercise that discretion and say that this is not urgent and should not be considered tonight.
It says, once again, I don't see...
I accept what the words say
Yeah.
there. I can read that and I understand those.
Yeah.
But you as the chair surely have to exercise some discretion about how you apply those.
Correct.
And as you apply them to this scenario, you're not convinced that this is urgent.
Correct, and I gave some
Yes.
hints. I gave some hints
So you
of
don't
how...
think that this is urgent.
I gave some hints of how you could maybe say it's urgent.
And what were those hints?
In saying that, for example, if this is about developing this program so we can go out there and seek some time-based funding, because ultimately the test is time. So if we're saying...
the test is time as in before the next meeting.
No, as in like, yeah, but...
That's exactly, but those are the words that are there. They're the words that you're applying, aren't they?
The time base as in saying...
Yes.
There's a state election coming up, we should be getting this ready so we can go out there and apply for
But
some
that
grants.
wouldn't be to be dealt with before the next scheduled meeting because the next state election is in March, which is a substantial period of time away. So that wouldn't meet the test either.
No, in my point of view, we've discussed...
Because that would be well after the next ordinary meeting, wouldn't it?
It's about getting ready for us to go out there and lobby in preparation, which obviously takes time
Obviously.
and effort to do. So therefore, if you
But
turn
March
around and say...
2027
Yeah, and the decisions are
is
usually
well
made...
and truly after the next scheduled council meeting.
Henceforth, there is an urgency. What I'm saying to you, once
Yeah,
again...
so there's no urgency to that scenario
well, no, if you were to turn... If
because
I was
that's
doing
March
this,
next year.
If I was doing this, I would turn
Whereas
around and
our
say...
next meeting is
Thank you,
July
Councillor.
in 2026, isn't it?
Councillor, please, I said, I'm trying to be as helpful as possible here.
But it's not. It doesn't apply.
Well,
You're
once
about
again-
8 or 9 months out.
Yeah, but decisions aren't made on March. Decisions to get funding are done way earlier than that. Henceforth, once again, having a package ready by month September, for example, to go out there and lobby and to do is what I'm getting at. But anyway, councillors, councillors.
I've just got one question, just through you to the chair. If what you're saying is right, and
Through me to the chair.
yes, no, sorry, the question is to you, the chair. If what you're saying is right, doesn't that make this motion more urgent in the sense that what it does is it divvies up a report before the council body sooner rather than later, so council can formulate a notice of motion that would undertake and give consideration to certain grants and certain funding before the state election, if what you're saying is right. But regardless, it's just asking for a report. So it gets us to that point where what you're saying may come to fruition, but just getting that report and kickstarting it now, if anything, makes it more urgent based on what you've said.
If someone had turned around and said, look, I think this report is urgent because of the time issues relating to council seeking external grants, and with the upcoming state election, the sooner we have this early, I would turn around and say, well, that's a time-based issue and there's some urgency in that. And that's what I was trying to allude to, and I gave the council multiple opportunities to say forward that case. And I guess, that's what I'm trying to get at. But there's nothing in here that is a time-constrained issue that under the clause 9.3b says of great urgency. I don't see the great urgency test being passed.
Really sick of this whole playing with words and giving hints.
Sorry,
and-
councillor, there's a
Look,
point of order that's been called.
Okay.
Councillor Moon.
councillor takes out the word being sick because we're here working collaboratively
I'm
together.
disappointed. How about that?
It's up to you what you use, but
I'm
that's not
disappointed.
the correct way of conducting.
Donna said disappointed. I accept disappointed. Yes. Thank you, Councillor Moon. Yes, Councillor Meniza.
I'm simply asking for a report to be provided within 60 days. The urgency is explained in the wording here. We don't have to talk about state elections and grants. Like, I'm sure there's going to be grants that are available that we can apply for, but I just want to refer you to a document that I've got in front of me. It's a delivery program 2022 to 26 and operational plan 2022 to 23. I've got a hard copy of it here. It's on page 69. Sinners Inch Park, Edmondson Park, major sporting facility. And it says here that the estimated cost is 20 million. The project is scheduled to run from 23 to 25, 2023 to 2025. And it says, under actions, complete master plan, detailed design and tender documentation, obtain relevant approvals from external stakeholders, land acquisition and DA approval, procurement of construction works and construction of Sinners Park. We are now in the middle of 2026. If there is nothing more urgent than getting some questions answered and getting some expectations managed for the community, I don't know what is.
Councillor McNaught.
Yeah, I asked the chair to rule on the urgency. I'm in agreement with the fact that I'd love to have these questions answered, but like it or not, we are bound by the Code of Meeting Practice, which suggests that there must be, as you've said already, great urgency on the grounds it requires a decision by the council before the next scheduled ordinary meeting. And I ask you to rule on it.
Yeah, based on that,
We're
Councillor
already
McNaught.
18 months behind. How could this not be any more urgent?
Councillor McNaught, yeah, I do not deem this urgent, so
No, you don't think the park's urgent.
I think the park is urgent.
Then you'd rule this urgent.
No, it's not what this Code of Meeting Practice says, so.
That's okay. You can rule on it not to be urgent, and this will be noted in the meeting and for the community to see.
Can I please ask, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councillor McNaught.
Can I ask that perhaps an explanation of the Code of Meeting Practice be provided for all councillors who are not... Sorry, did you want to say something, Councillor Monahan?
Yes, I would love to.
Please interrupt me, go.
I will. It's hilarious. What we're now...
All right, thank you.
I don't, Councillor. I'm all good with it.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor McNaught. Thank you, Councillor Monahan. All right, we'll move on from this. Are there any other urgency motions arising from any questions with notice? No, okay, great. So we'll now go back to... Yes, Councillor Meniza?
Nothing to do with this. Okay, I'll let you... Have you ruled, sorry, on the...
Yes.
Okay. My question with notice 8, can we just briefly touch on that? The Woodward Park Master Plan?
Yes.
So I would just like to seek some guidance. If I was to break this up over a few meetings, how many questions per meeting could I ask on Woodward Park for it not to be in excess of 500 in external costs per meeting? How many of these questions could I ask? And I can then break it up over a few meetings so it's within the rules of the...
Sorry, Councillor, if you can put your question in line with the Code of Meeting Practice so I can get you an answer to it,
Oh,
please.
sorry, to the chair.
Once again, if I refer to the Code of Meeting Practice, the chair is only referred to when the mayor is not in the chair. but
Sorry,
when the
to the CEO. The question is to the CEO.
Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Through the Mayor, a little bit impossible to say because they're not all weighted the same, so 20 questions is a lot. But I couldn't give you an exact breakup per question because one question could be more detailed than the other. I'd say we often get questions with notices about the 5 to 7 questions, so that's what it looks like. I think some of them are quite easy, but some of them are more lengthy, and that's why at a 20-point question portfolio they were taken this way.
Thank you for the guidance.
Question 09, Councillor Meniza. Any?
No, they've been answered sufficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, we'll now move to item CO 05
I move that we move into closed session.
under section,
10A2G? I don't remember.
I think it was G.
I think it was 10A2G.
Yep. Do you have a seconder? Second, Councillor Moon. Council, we've had a motion that we move back into closed session. This was the matter that we were dealing with in closed session prior to the adjournment of the council meeting.
Just briefly, just before the motion's put, we've discussed a bit of it. I think it was about 15 to 20 minutes in closed session. And noting what the discussion is, I could not think of any aspect of it that was confidential in the circumstances. And on that basis, I'd be voting in against going into closed.
I'll just foreshadow that there is a matter that has been brought to my attention that would certainly trigger 10A2G of the Local Government Act.
Is there any other discussion, Councillor Monaghan?
Can we have maybe another 5-minute recess to see what that
Yeah, I
specific
can
matter
tell you
is?
it's cost.
Cost,
Yeah.
like the cost that you asked the CEO to read out from the book?
I'm not sure how they're connected.
Cost of legal action, I assume.
Yes, because that would... No, it hasn't been commenced, but the cost of proceedings, if that was to be disclosed, could waive legal professional privilege.
Well, question to the CEO. Could the disclosure of cost of potential legal proceedings waive council's right to professional legal privilege?
Through the Mayor to the General Counsel.
I can conceive of bases on which a discussion around estimated costs could be privileged. Though I wouldn't usually disclose that prior to proceedings or in the course of proceedings. So the advice could be privileged if it has strategic value, and sometimes knowing the costs could have strategic value, or if it's generated in preparation of litigation, it could be privileged. The difference, I think, with the other matter is that proceedings are concluded.
I move that the motion be put.
Oh, look, can we get 5 minutes to see what it is, so then we know what, perhaps Councillor Hart's quite right, and it is confidential, and we know what it is, and then we can vote a particular way. Like, in fairness, if we're going to afford 5 minutes for things sprung up, we should get 5 minutes or at least a few minutes to consider why he now says that it's certainly confidential. If we're privy to that, we may be able to support the position to go into closed.
The motion nominates an amount, an allocation for the resolution, for the motion, and similar to how we dealt with a legal matter in the last couple of months, that we do not disclose publicly that figure for those legal proceedings.
Yeah. Councillor.
So this is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I don't see the need for a recess, Councillor Carney, on
With respect, Mr Mayor, we're asking to vote on going into closed Councillor Hart raises an argument that he says would convince us or would guarantee. Without that, I'm going to be voting against going into closed. Otherwise, in fairness to us, like in fairness to the 5-minute break beforehand where you could consider the urgency motion, we would like to consider our position on whether or not it crosses into being confidential. Can't we be afforded that opportunity to vote appropriately and understand whether or not... Councillor Hart might be right. Why aren't we getting a 5-minute break to consider our position when 5-minute breaks are afforded the other way?
The 5-minute break for the urgency motion was because it was actually a convenient time to take a break. We were due for one, so it just lined
I
up.
appreciate that. It went a lot longer, but all I'm saying is so we can have time to consider what he says. Otherwise, we're voting on this blindly.
Well, there's a part of a thing about actually sharing it before we're actually in closed session, because hence we're forth in closed, and we're supposed to make decisions openly and transparently. I think Councillor has outlined his case. You've asked council questions to the general counsel. I don't see what else is different is going to come out in a recess to discuss something that we're supposed to be discussing publicly and transparently. Councillor McNaught?
There are vast differences between the two situations. The councillor has given his, the section under which he wants to close the meeting, and to take a 5-minute recess to look at something that has been deemed by the councillor for the reasons he put forward as confidential means it's not confidential anyway. So can we just vote on whether or not to go into closed session, please?
But all we'd be voting on is proposing a budget to take legal action.
There are items outlined under his motion.
Yeah, that's what I understand from the conversation we've had so far. We'd be proposing a budget to take legal action.
I guess, yes, your question is...
Just saying, is that the correct understanding through Mr Mayor to Councillor Hull?
Yeah,
Hart?
and we're halfway through a debate on the matter, and you're speaking against it. Councillor Carney has spoken against it. I think we've had 2 speakers for and 2 speakers against. So I think the motion's been moved that we put. Councillor Hart, would you like a right to reply?
No.
All right, I'll put the motion that we move into closed session. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against, and declare it carried.
Division.
Division, all those in favour, please stand. Those against? Thank you, everyone. We'll move into now closed session for those who are online or in person. We will let you know as soon as we are concluded and get back to normal If someone open up the door, please. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Under section 14.22, I'd like to read out what was resolved during in closed session. If we can go up the point, just go back up. The council resolved in closed session that council receive and note the report on the code of conduct complaint volumes and SCMA engagement with the Office of Local Government. Notes that council is a PCBU and must do everything to maintain a safe work environment for staff and have obligation under the Act to the community. 3, delegate to the Mayor and CEO to seek legal advice as to commencing legal proceedings against the OLG, Office of Local Government, for its apparent failure to exercise its function on Local Government Act in relation to this matter. 4, delegate to the Mayor and CEO to further this matter or do all things necessary to ensure the Office of Local Government lawfully exercise their functions under the Local Government Act, including but not limited to the commencement of legal proceedings in any relevant jurisdictions. 5, direct the CEO to ensure allocation from the general fund as per the confidential attachment, and as the motion resolved that way. That being said, I now declare the meeting closed at 9:46 p.m. Thank you.